Missing someone. Love with all your heart. Missing someone. Love with heart.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So this week's episode is going to be exciting because we are going to be doing a full transformation on this client. A little bit of her color history is we have done numerous amounts of like balayage appointments. She used to be at some point blue, and then we worked on trying to get rid of the green that stained her hair. We did multiple sessions of like different reds on her. So this is pretty much one of the reds that has faded out. The last red we did tone her with a demi-permanent. So this is just kind of the fade of it and what it's lightened to. The goal for today is to have a very solid money piece that is going to be a bold copper, and then she wants to darken the back with a deep red, something that's not too bright but something that will give enough contrast so that the bold pieces in the front really stand out. So since her inspo is that really nice chunky money piece, I had already explained to her, so she has like an old curtain bang that she's been growing out that we did a few sessions ago. You can see right there, it kind of goes a little bit down below her chin. And the inspo picture that she showed me didn't have any like face frame or any bangs. So I let her know that if we had only taken the very like front sections where her bangs were, it would look really disconnected to the rest of her hair. So I explained to her because of that, I had to section the sides above her ear a little bit further back than we would right in the front. So when I do this, I try to visually show them how much of the bottom she wants to see color running through the ends of her hair, and then kind of separate and section as we go. So for this, she has also like a face frame beyond her old curtain bang, so we had to take this part a little further back, and we are just going to be doing slices back to back and just trying to make this part as solid as possible. And this will vary on the client and how much of their hair or how many layers they have in the front to kind of create the illusion that it's all that big chunk that you'll see at the end. So this part is really important. You got to take in consideration of their haircut when they're asking for this type of color placement, so that it really pops and gives the illusion that the front section where the money piece is connects down to the bottom. So for this technique, I'm going to be using some lightener. I'm using the Blonde Me Schwarzkopf lightener, and I'm just using 20 volume. This is going to be a really fast placement for me, so I'm just sticking with 20 volume so that it all kind of just lifts all together. And as I'm going through, I am taking slices horizontally up the head on the side here and leaving a very small root. She is a client that doesn't live here in LA anymore, so she only comes to see me when she's home or like visiting family. So I was trying to think of something that would give her something a little bit more lower maintenance, and I felt like doing it a bit off root would give her a slightly softer grow out. So once I finished one side, I moved on to the other side before detailing the top, only because I want the color to lighten and have balance, and I feel that doing this this way I'm able to pull out the sides at the same time and then pull out the money piece top section at the same time. And then another thing that I want to note is that my foils are pretty much laid flat here, and that's going to help give me a really even lift. Since we are slicing and essentially we want this part to be as solid and even as possible, I'm taking pretty thin sections and making sure that I really saturate and pick out any previous highlights because we are going to hit those highlights later. But for right now, since she has pretty long root, we are just focusing on whatever's virgin and the darkest. And then once that lightens up and gets to about like a level 8 or 9, that's when I'm going to focus on lightening those mids and ends that have those auto highlights. Because I do know already, since I have done her hair before, that those highlights that have the color on them, they were previously lightened to about a level 9. So I know if we put lightener on them, they will brighten up pretty quickly. And since we're doing like a really bold copper, I don't really need it to get super blonde. I just need it to get a little bit brighter than they are right now. So I'm going to save that part for the end. So now that both sides are done, I'm moving on to the front, and whenever I'm doing this too, I am double checking, looking side to side to make sure everything looks very balanced and even. When doing this type of technique, you want to make sure that everything is as even as possible, because sometimes you can really tell, especially when you're doing like a color blocking placement that is parted in the middle. You can really tell if it's kind of you have a little bit more foils on one side than the other side. So I always like to keep cross-checking to make sure that everything is pretty balanced and looks pretty even. So also another thing I wanted to consider when I was sectioning her is having her decide how thick this front piece is, because every client has their own preference on how chunky they would want their money piece. So I let them decide and I show them beforehand. So I section and pre-section it and show them that and ask them if this is how chunky they're okay with, and I also give them my input, but most importantly, because this is going to be like where they see the color the most, it's right in front of their face and just kind of frames everything. I feel like this part is the most important part, and if it's a little off, sometimes a client won't totally love their hair. So having the client give their input and showing them, is this okay, is this thick enough, or if you want it thicker, and helping them decide with you the color placement at this part is really helpful. So for this color, I do want her to still lighten relatively light. So our goal today is to get her, I would say, to a level 9, even though we're going to be doing a copper. I wanted to do a more bold copper on her, only because with her skin tone, she has a slight more yellow undertone, and I felt like doing a more intentional, brighter copper tone would look more intentional and just complement her skin tone a lot better than if we were to do a more natural copper. I feel like sometimes on warmer skin tones and then you do warm hair, it kind of can clash a little bit. So I opted to do more of a brighter tone on her. So while her foils are processing, just to kind of save some time, I'm going to go in and apply her demi formulation for the mid-lengths and ends on the back of the hair. You can hear I did kind of mix a few different demi brands together, but essentially what I was trying to formulate was a level 5, 4 and 5, like reddish brown. We were kind of going for something slightly deeper and more on the mahogany side, but not too much of a brighter red, because we wanted the front to really pop and give the effect that the back is a lot darker and the front is a lot lighter with that color blocking technique. So I pretty much just applied this on damp hair and then just brushed it out, and then I kind of clipped it up and let it process until her foils were pretty much done. This demi formulation, I wanted it to process for the full time for 2 reasons. One being that it is a reddish tone. So a lot of times when you do tone with a demi permanent and you're trying to create like a red tone, I always for sure like to process those for the full time to get the most out of the pigment, because I find that whenever I rinse off warm tones, especially like red tones with a demi formulation, too early, it doesn't last as long or it doesn't give me as much pigment. So I always want to make sure that I let those process for the full time or even longer before I rinse it out. So now that the root of her foils pretty much are almost done, I'm starting to pull them out together and just starting to spread out all of the product, even spreading the product on the mid-lengths and ends, and then of course applying extra lightener to areas that need a little bit more brightening. So what this is going to do is it's going to give me a better lift and see where I need more product. Sometimes you'll see, like at this part, that you'll find some spots, and sometimes that's okay because you can just go in with some fresh lightener and just re-hit those spots that need a little bit extra lifting while everything's kind of lifting all together. But I like to do this before the foils or the hair is ready to be rinsed, because like the last 5-10 minutes I like it to sit this way so that I can make any corrections with adding a bit more liner in certain problem areas that need a bit more lift. And then now that the front is kind of processing and just lifting a little bit longer, I'm going ahead and rinsing out that back formulation and using cooler water, and then I'm going to just throw a treatment on the hair and wrap it up in a towel as that processes, so that when I'm applying her semi-permanent color to the blonde areas, it has like a little treatment that is kind of moisturizing the back of her hair. Alrighty guys, so here is the fun part. I'm going to be using the new Danger Jones semi-permanent hair color line for the front color. The colors that I'm using, so primarily I did a base of Burnout, which is their bright orange color, and then I added a bit of Diablo, which is their bright deep red tone. I did a darker and more reddish version for the root that I'm applying right now. And then we did more of a true copper on the mid-lengths and ends, which is just the same formulation of pretty much Burnout and Diablo, but just has a little bit less of the red Diablo in there. And I cannot tell you guys how amazing these semi-permanent colors are. The first thing I want to say is that the blend of these colors and viscosity of this brand feels so smooth, and little goes such a long way with this product. I feel like I don't have to use as much of the color, and when I'm applying it's really easy, and it just smells so good in the hair as well too. And I feel like it just feels so nice to just have such a bright tone blend so easily when using like two different colors or doing like a color melt like this. Because going back in and checking the colors to see if the colors blend, I feel like the viscosity of this color line makes it really easy to spread the color and cross check and make sure that you fully saturated. So that is one of the main reasons why I'm just so obsessed with this hair color line. And right now, you guys, you can go get it at your nearest Cosmoprof and order it online. It is available in stores, I believe, in the next few weeks, but be on the lookout because these colors are going to go fast, I swear, because they are so amazing and they smell so great and have such great pigment. I feel like everyone is just going to be super obsessed with them and just want to try them out and do a ton of models like I do. So after letting her process for about 25 to 30 minutes at room temperature, we rinse out her color with some ice cold water, and then I just kind of reconditioned everything all together just to make sure that her hair felt nice and soft and healthy. And then we just styled and blow dried as usual, and you guys will see in the next clip how vibrant and healthy her hair looks after this. Alrighty guys, so here is the finished look. So first of all, I want to talk about the color placement. So now that her hair is dried and styled, you can see that we took that front money piece section, but you did see that we took a pretty thick section on the sides to make the illusion that it kind of connected and flowed with everything, and that was totally intentional because of the way that her hair is layered and cut in the front. So it kind of gave that nice illusion that everything is pretty much the same amount of spacing and sectioning, and the money piece looks like one cohesive strip of color. And then the other thing I want to mention is how bright and beautiful this new color line is. I feel like it was super easy to apply and use, and it really did give a lot of pigment with the amount of color I used. I feel like I really didn't even use too much, and it really did cover and give her the most beautiful vibrancy that we were looking for. Alrighty guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and as always, I will talk to you guys next week.